Waking up slightly hungover and expecting her street to be infested with the dead, Emily quietly shuffles to her window and looks out across the quiet dawn. Too afraid to step outside the shelter of her home, the fearful survivor quickly falls into her slowly establishing routine.
July 18th. Following the events of yesterday, it seems like the best decision to remain indoors as much as possible. Part of me hopes that the pilots would be able to distinguish a survivor amongst the infected, but the realist in me has to acknowledge that they're just as much a threat as the infected they've dragged into my neighborhood. Staying inside has had its pros and cons. For a few moments here and there, I can almost forget how broken the world is outside. My mother would be proud with the amount I'm cooking, though I'm sure she'd throw a fit if she saw the horrendous combination of ingredients I'm using. Despite knowing that I'm piecing together these meals just to work through the perishables before the power goes out, there is a welcoming comfort to having the kitchen smell even remotely like home. It's far more preferable than the stench now leaking in from the back door. I did have to dispatch one of the infected that appeared on my street, and it looks like tomorrow will bring more of the same, judging from what I saw before the sun went down. I don't want to view it as removing pests, but it's hard not to. Emily.
Still paranoid that any moment could bring a wave of infected she was not equipped to deal with, Emily peers up and down her block until she spies a lone silhouette, idling by the distant fence. Attempting to use the sign to convince herself that the helicopter hadn't been observed to the extent she feared, Emily once again retreats into her home and the comfort of her routine. Drawn to her upper window by both paranoia and boredom, another stray shadow slinks into view and crawls into the home across her tranquil street. Settling her nerves and deciding to confront the shambling soul in the morning, Emily's stubborn fear pulls her to the window one final time before she sees the confirmation she had been dreading. Left feeling tired and defeated as she observes the mindless woman trudging across her view, Emily lets out an exhausted sigh and pulls the curtains closed to provide even a sliver of peace.
July 19th. A rather intense thunderstorm has hit Louisville, and despite its annoyances, I think it's a rather unexpected gift. For one, I'm almost certain that no helicopter pilot would be willing to fly in such hazardous conditions, so, as long as the rain remains, I feel safe. From, at least, that looming threat. Second, I imagine that the constant rumbles of thunder and pelting rain must hinder the infected's hearing. Maybe this will help disperse whatever following the helicopter might have pulled, and allow me to feel a bit more relaxed in my home, as every sound isn't a potential death sentence. Though it is the opposite of fun to walk and fight in such a heavy rainstorm, I did step outside to dispatch one of the infected that had wandered too close for my liking. Sadly, the one I killed isn't alone, as the dead have gained a strange fascination with the house across the street from me. You know, I wonder, is there some sliver of intellect attempting to bring them home, or perhaps it's just the confusion of the storm driving them inside? Anyway, depending on the weather tomorrow, I'm planning on trying to get to some of the nearby homes again. I have to acknowledge that there is a large sum of fresh food in each home that will rot once the power goes out. And if I'm going to wait out this leg injury and finally do something, I need all the time I can manage. Emily.
Determined even despite the rain to search the nearby homes for more food, Emily summons up her resolve and plods dutifully through the mud as the morning sun barely peeks over the cloudy horizon. Driven by both rising experience and restlessness, the once terrified doctor faces down the growling infected as they approach, each one being dealt with as the rain soaks into her bones. Feeling a small sense of accomplishment as she reaches the light and warmth of the first home, Emily finds her previous reservations gone as she begins to load her satchel with all the food she can find. Starting to gain the first shreds of control since the wailing helicopter had flown overhead, the drenched doctor continues on her mission with growing confidence.
Oh, God damn it. Shit!
July 20th. Every time I venture further, it feels like the world hurls me back toward my home. When I was trying to get into one of the homes at the end of the street, I tripped. A burglar alarm. Can you believe it? It sounded like a siren in the empty neighborhood. Rightly, assuming that the noise would draw the infected, I scurried home on my annoying fucking leg and witnessed the fallout. To be honest, the sight wasn't near my worst fears, but it's still unnerving to see the mindless shadows of people dutifully marching toward the noise with no other care in the world. Is it truly ingrained in them that noise equals people? Or is it simpler than that? It sickens me to observe them. And yet I can't help but find myself perched by my window whenever my twisted curiosity takes hold. Although with my movement getting slightly better, I'm hoping to take advantage of the alarm tomorrow. Search the homes in the opposite direction. I pray that the infected have been drawn away, but prayers have never worked for me before. Emily.
Rising well before the sun as she often does, Emily starts to build up her composure in preparation for striking out yet again. Yesterday had seen her return with a reasonable amount of food to stock her kitchen with, but the realistic survivor knew that she was only buying herself small slivers of time. If Emily truly wanted to endure this nightmare and come out the other side, she'd have to be more aggressive in her actions. Initially hoping the way south would be clear due to the alarm, Emily found the exact opposite, as the end of her street was littered with aimless infected, waiting for fresh prey. Quickly realizing she'd made no headway moving south, the now bloody doctor shifts her direction and tightens her grip around her garden fork. Fighting to keep herself calm as she works one by one through the dead clogging her path, Emily begins to feel the small sense of control returning as she carves out a precarious safety around her home. Having the head of her weapon snap off as she drives it into rotten flesh and bone, Emily finds herself grateful for her mending leg as she fishes out a spare steak she had stowed in her satchel. Securing more food and keeping with her slow pace, the curious doctor finds her feet carrying her towards the now silent house alarm, her fear of a waiting horde fading with her confidence. Coming across an infected that had clearly just turned, Emily's mind begins to flood with possibilities as she searches through the heavy layers clung to his bloody body. Wanting to bring his corpse back home for examination, but being weighed down by a full load of food from the other homes, Emily begins to trudge back to her shelter with the intention of returning for her most recent curiosity.
Subject 013. Age 30s, sex male, name unknown. Cause of death, bite on right jaw. Subject appears to have been shot before death in reanimation. Gunshot wound was bandaged, but not properly treated. Fragments of the projectile are still in the exposed tissue of his right shoulder. The subject most likely did not have use of his right arm before time of death. July 21st. It hurts to write down, but today felt good. Though it was filled with twisted faces and rivers of blood, there's still this sense of accomplishment, freedom, no, power. I don't know how to precisely put it into words. I'm still terrified of the monsters that these people have become, but I'm starting to learn how they work, how to handle them. Maybe there is actual hope of getting out of this rotten city. Who knows? A more interesting note is someone, or I suppose something, that I came across today. An infected who had very recently turned. He was wandering around the house where the alarm had gone off yesterday. He first caught my eye due to the many layers he had on, but once I searched through his bag, I found fresh food. This might not seem all that significant, but it means that this man, this infected, must have survived past the airborne mutation. That means that there have to be other people out there like me. Of course, the other side of this coin is the state he was in. He was clearly shot before he turned. Whether it was from the military or another survivor, probably that helicopter, I don't know. But either way, it's bad. There was a cheap walkie-talkie in his bag as well, but I find myself afraid to use it. I probably wouldn't get a signal in the storm anyway. But there are others nearby. I just don't know if that's something to cling to or be terrified of. Emily.